Good morning today, 25th July 2024. We are going to discuss editorials of The Hindu. First article here in Hindu talks about budget 2024. Yesterday we have discussed in detail the same points have been mentioned, so we are not going to discuss this article. This article here it talks about urban transformative strategy, though it is included with budget. So we'll discuss this article related to urban transformation. Second article will be discussing from business standard related to oil production. This article was written by former diplomat. It is a very good article, so we'll discuss in detail this one. The third article from Live Mint will discuss regarding climate change and its impact on India, how India should take actions and what kind of strategy need to be employed. These things will be discussed. First article about urban transformative strategy. In India, urban population amounting to total 50 crore people, which is 36% of India's population resides in urban area. Every year, there is a growth of 2 to 2.5% of urban population. The growth in urban population demands for urbanization measures, sustainable investments are needed, and there should be a vision and determination to make urban areas centers of sustainable development. Recently presented budget in the parliament by newly elected NDA alliance government recognized cities as a growth hubs and offered many options and opportunities for planned development and growth of the cities. Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana scheme includes two things. One is urban area and rural area. The scheme was implemented in 2015 and provided 85 lakh housing units for economically weaker sections, middle income group categories of population with investment of about 8 lakh crore rupees. So far, this quarter has been provided by central government and remaining beneficiaries are state government. Budget now proposed further push to the scheme by announcing support for construction of another 1 crore such housing units in urban areas with investment of 10 lakh crore, which include central assistance of 2.2 lakh crore in the next 5 years. Apart from this, allocation will be provided on interest subsidy basis to facilitate the loans at affordable rates to the central governments. One recent, one recent and more probable issue is migrant population. Wherever go, they will be surviving in slums and they don't have the housing facilities. So they are needing for housing facility for long time. Budget now introduced a dormitory type of accommodation for industrial workers. What it do? It invites a public-private partnership. मान लो, suppose say this is the dwelling facility, public will provide 50%, government will provide 50%. So with this 50-50% partnership, they will construct housing units for these poor people in an industrial sector as a dormitory type. Financial support will be provided through viability gap funding scheme. What is the viability gap funding scheme? Suppose say now 50% private partners provides, but they don't have that much of funding. Suppose say 50% means they have 100 crore they need to provide. So in 100 crore, private sector has upfront 50 crores only. Rest 50 crores they can borrow from the bank. That borrowing is called viability gap funding. That government gives the guarantee. This is the extent that 20% of the central government will be provided to state government also. In cities, there are several initiatives have been taken. One is Amrit scheme, Atal mission for regeneration and urban transformation. It provides 8,000 crores for development of cities such as water supply, sanitation, roads and sewerage systems. Finance Minister also announced a viability gap funding window in commercial venture. Wherever the PPP mode is available in Amrit mission also, There is a viability gap funding mode. More cities got exposed to this PPP mode, and it will speed up the development of infrastructure and upgrade the cities. But budget is not adequate. Budget this year, budget speed finance minister mentioned 11,000, 11 lakh, 11,000, 111 rupee lakh crore capex capital expenditure infrastructure in urban areas. This include highways, many other sectors. Cities can also make efforts to take a part in it. Cities, when urban infrastructure is very good, they can generate the taxes. These taxes can be utilized for urban development. When you make the urban development, the growth increases and the tax revenue increases, and it benefits for human development indicators. 1 lakh crore available to states interest-free loans for infrastructure development. State could use this window for development of cities as well. One more thing is, apart from Amrit and Capex Indexer, the Smart City Mission, this was launched in 2015 with budgetary support 8,000 crore. Now it is cut down to 2,400 crore. With these provisions, with 1.5 lakh crore through Amrit Mission, PPP mode and viability gap funding, the states can utilize this funding through private partnership and then establish the government of cities with good infrastructure. National Urban Digital Mission opened in budget with provision of 1150 crores, focus on digitization of property, tax records, management, and geographical information survey mapping. This will help urban local bodies in managing their finances better and also help property owners. Budget also declared planned development of cities. Municipalities got attention, so they have given grant of 25,653. Whether it is adequate or not, we do not know. However, this grant may help in development of municipalities. 500 crore has been made for incubation of new cities. What is mean by incubation? Incubation means they will establish new centers, all infrastructure will be established, mass rapid transit system, transport system wherever it is there, less time will be taken, the economic activities takes at faster level. It can be developed as a transit hub and then denser development without traffic load. These things will be removed. Well designed mobility plan will definitely connect the cities. When it connects the cities, urban areas, peripheral urban areas, and it leads to economic development. Budget announced for economic and transit planning with orderly development of urban areas utilizing town planning schemes. Budget also proposed encouraging electric bus system for cities and provided 1,300 crore for electric bus stations. E-buses, what they do? Economical, they are eco-friendly operating system. Main challenge is their higher upfront cost. You need to procure them at high cost, but this budgetary support, it may keep going. With this budgetary support, they can procure with this upfront cost also. In case of solid waste management, the biggest challenge in which cities face, urban population is growing at 2 to 2.5% to cater the requirement of urban solid waste. So this budget announced a special impetus on bankable projects for solid waste management in collaboration with state government and financial institutions. They will provide viability gap funding for such purposes. Madhya Pradesh, Indore, one city that used viability gap funding by collaborating with financial institution, and it has made the city very cleaner. Further, the budget focused on Street Vendors Act 2014 to regulate vendors in public areas and protect their rights. Street Vendors Act, the budget envisaged preparation of street vending plans, street vending zones to make street vending very healthy and safe option for consumers and vendors. Suppose you are going outside and then you are procuring something, you should ascertain its viability, whether it is good or not. So this act will help. Street Vendors Act 2014 will definitely help. Budget proposed 100 weekly hearts or street food hubs in selected cities. But states are not limited to 100. They can increase, they can facilitate in all cities the street vending plans, developing street vending in various cities according to their needs. Budget has included many provisions, financial as well as procedural, to push planned urbanization of cities, municipalities, guidance by respective state governments. Uh, the cities have to show the vision. They should have the determination to incorporate all the resources coming not only from the budget, but also they have to augment their own resources. Above all, citizen participation is a bedrock of success of any development strategy. Without involvement of citizens, no city plan can work, no smart city plan can work. So this is related to this urbanization article. We'll move to next article. This oil wheels of change. This article is published in Business Standard. So we will discuss this article also in detail. Recently, Ukraine and Russia war is prolonging. Mm, United States of America boycotted Russian crude oil for taking, and it imposed sanction on many European countries. So subsequently, many European countries didn't take oil from Russia. However, India, with its diplomatic prowess and strategy, engaged with Russia and got a discount on crude oil import. This helped India to reduce its import oil bill from 157 billion to 132 billion. You are understanding? Almost 25 billion it had saved on crude oil. India had saved on crude oil. Yesterday we discussed about trade deficit, fiscal deficit, trade deficit, these things. However, as global oil prices are increasing, this inflation will definitely going to rise, and India is depending on many other countries in the Middle Eastern region. Every year, this oil increase may go, and then it cause very serious issues for India. If you consider last budget 2023-24, there is about 6 lakh barrel per day consumption in India, while import stayed at 87% of the total requirement, 232 million. Don't focus on the numbers, but understand the point what I'm telling. This scenario, every year 4% decrease is there in oil import, according to International Energy Agency for India. Why this 4% decline? Because oil prices are increasing, prices are increasing, but our affordability remains the same. Earlier we had 157, suppose say we have 157 billion, we used to procure some 230, 300 metric ton. Now the same price we have 157 billion, now we are able to procure only 220. Why? Because oil price has increased and it caused to reduction in the oil demand, reduction in the oil import. The same thing. India India Energy Agency projected that in its report India Oil Market Outlook 2030, oil production may fall below 5 lakh 5 lakh 40,000 barrel per day, while oil demand may increase to 6 lakh 60,000 million 6 lakh 60,000 barrels per day, with major implications for India's energy security. So independence of energy security may go over 90%. Then in future, India's trade deficit and then ultimately fiscal deficit is going to increase. So there is a huge need for India to push and put huge pressure on these electric vehicles, biofuels, and other alternatives. Renewable energy is the need of the hour. India must explore this. Recently, Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas announced formation of joint working group for promoting exploration and production of crude oil. This group includes both private and public sector companies active in exploration and production operations. This include Ministry of MOPNG and then Directorate General of Hydrocarbons. Presently, acreage licensing production bids. They have led 240,000 square kilometer of area awarded to exploration and production. Our government want to increase this to 10 lakh square kilometer. Why? Because obviously to produce crude oil more domestically, to reduce import from the outside world. In order for this, in order to promote ease of doing business, government reduced approvals from 37 to 18. Among 18, 9 are self-certified, so you just need to provide the data. Rest 9 need to cooperate with government. Government committed 7,500 crores for geoscientific data to explore where are all the locations in which potential crude oil locations are available. Crude oil, gas, shale oil, anything. Two potential locations are identified: Kerala Konkan region, Mumbai and Mahanadi offshore basins, Andamans. Standard and Poor Global in its report told that category 2-3 basins hold a potential of 22 billion barrels of oil. So if India could unearth this oil, so there is a potential of 22 billion barrels of oil. Exploration ventures, those who are engaged in ENP. What is this ENP? Exploration and production. Government does this open acreage policy for hydrocarbons. So they have already been successful on Indonesian side of Andaman Sea, East African shore, where Tanzania is set to join Mozambique as a significant gas producer. So India has found the suitable locations. So now with this investment and geo scientific data, so India can propel forward. If domestic oil production leads to change on and below the ground, if it materializes, there is a shift in perspective of international oil companies, India's private players. This will definitely help. Increase in production crucial for security amid potential crisis in turbulent times. It will definitely help in fields like Mumbai High, Assam and Rajasthan. Industry veterans are confident that oil explored through this intensive exploration, enhanced oil techniques are very capital intensive. So the government should cut down the tax to help them so that without much margin, so they can reinvest and then make more oil domestic production. This author brings about China. China has oil demand of 11 million barrel per day. They have to import through vulnerable maritime route. This is South China Sea. South China Sea, you might have heard. So China is totally dominating that area. So they will import oil through that South China Sea every day. So their oil import is per day 11 million barrel per day. China invested a lot of time on substantial strategic reserves, invested oil fields abroad, diversified its strategy, and it collaborated with state-owned oil companies to do exploration and production. While China is the world dominant producer and investor in the solar and wind energy and nuclear power plant also. It follows all of the above approach wherever there is a chance from every possible source to fuel. It's a giant economy. China is a huge economy, so it is a growing economy. It is even competing with USA. They have they have targeted that they have to produce 4 million barrel per day levels for domestic production. China's production peaked with their ambitious target. In 2014, they maintained 4 million barrels per day with impressive imports. They maintained their import 6 million barrels per day and then they domestically produced 4.3 million barrels per day. However, recently their production fell below, but with again they came up with a 7-year exploration production and increase action plan. Now they have whooping amount of 4.2 million barrel per day and every year it is increasing by 2.2%. China going to different basin, they are unlocking the opportunity. So there is a chance for India to explore. The next article here talks about climate action, climate change, economic survey includes one chapter. So in it, climate change, what is the impact, how the developed nations are not helping developing countries in order to bring climate change measures. So we'll discuss this article in detail. It is a contradiction that developed world with all its huge hi-fi technology, huge financial muscle, but they are yet to develop climate change or climate friendly technologies, technology and in climate 100% climate resiliency. According to one report, Fekete et al., US need to almost store 3 months of electricity annually to achieve 100% renewable energy to adequate backup. They have just 7 minutes worth at present. One more report states that US must invest 5 times of its current GDP to reach at this storage goal. With such a contradiction, these developed countries pushing developing countries on battery replacement technology, environmental tolls, many other things. One of the main thing, India always prone to criticism because of its inability to combat climate change. However, developed countries are not able to make these things. 13th chapter of economic survey this year calls about this hypocrisy, suggest 5 important aspects. They raises 5 important aspects. So this economic survey will discuss what are all these 5 points. First thing, first thing is Industrial Revolution happened in 1750 to 1850 period. During that time, India was struggling for independence and freedom. We were under bonded labor and colony of British. However, the countries such as USA and European Union, present European Union, they colluded all the amounts and they started industries. Present level 50% of the emissions are because of these people. Yet these nations demand that developed countries with significant lower per capita emission should shoulder equal responsibility for emission and reduction. This hypocritical stance overlooks the foundation principle, common but differentiated responsibility. What is this common but differentiated responsibility? Everyone is common, but you need to differentiate between them. So developed countries should help developing countries. They overlook this common but differentiated responsibility, burdening the developing nation with unrealistic dual mandate, advancing their economies, also maintaining stiff emission targets. So this is the first thing. Second thing is climate change strategy. They don't have long strategic vision, shifting from fossil fuel to renewable energy without considering environmental impacts. For example, solar panels, wind turbines, they are promoted as a clean energy solutions. However, in order to make a solar panel and turbines, we require minerals such as lithium, cobalt, rare earth element. So their exploration causes huge environmental degradation. In Democratic Republic of Congo, that supplies 60% of the world cobalt, mining resulted in catastrophic environment and human rights abuses. These impacts, which are overlooked, reveal a fundamental flaw in the life cycle assessment of renewable technologies. Thirdly, today's strategy disproportionately engages on technological solution. It neglects lifestyle changes, that is behavioral changes. There is need to focus on behavioral changes. According to one FAO, Food and Agricultural Organization report, livestock production currently responsible for 14.5% of global greenhouse gas emission. So, if we can control through our life cycle, lifestyle changes, these emissions could be neglected. Plus, artificial intelligence and cryptocurrency mining, which are growing day by day. 2020 study by International Energy Agency found data centers driven by this artificial intelligence and their cloud services consume about 8% of global electricity by 2030. Remember how much emission they have to emit because of this. The financial commitments of the developed nations to support developing countries in their climate efforts are grossly inadequate. In Conference of Parties 2009, developed countries pledged to mobilize 100 billion annually by 2020, but this target was materialized only in 2022, and funds fell short of needs, with much of the funding in the form of loans and adding debt burdens. Already, various countries are facing debt burdens, and then it again adds the issues. Global climate efforts and exposes world's willingness to take full responsibility all are being undermined. According to G20 Independent Expert Group on strengthening multilateral development banks, additional 3 trillion annually required to meet climate goals and sustainable development targets by 2030. In that, 1.8 trillion is needed for climate action alone. Even the loss and damage fund announced in conference of 2027 is yet to be operationalized. So without these things, how the climate change can be impacted? So this is the huge toll on the developing nations by developed countries. Further, as a fifth point, developed nation climate strategies need to address overconsumption. Why? Because those countries which are more resourceful, they buy more resources, they generate a lot of waste, and that waste will impact climate more, and then it impacts ultimately the low income countries. The consumption is hardly a policy agenda. They haven't included in their policy agenda. Technological fixes are only they are pushing for. The survey pushes climate action approach that merges ancient wisdom with modern sustainability practices. Now, our economic survey focuses on one mission called lifestyle for environment. It proposes 75 steps that includes minimizing single-use plastic, conserving water, adopting sustainable food system, enhancing energy efficiency. Whether these methods are sufficient, these are the minimal but not great for mitigating the impact. The survey calls for integrating these individual efforts in broader policy reforms and systemic changes. We should keep pushing multilateral development bank reforms. Investment in renewable energy, especially in nuclear energy, is very crucial. Nuclear energy addresses intermittency problem which we are facing with renewable energy. Suppose say solar energy. We'll get solar energy more during summer season, but during winter and rainy season, we will not have this issue. However, in case with nuclear energy, we may not face this issue. Same goes with wind energy also. It is also intermittent. So, keeping these things in mind, budget rightly allocated greater role for nuclear energy in India's energy mix. Setting up of Bharat Small Reactor Research and Development Center for Bharat Small Modular Reactors and Newer Technologies. It promotes development of indigenous technology for advanced ultra supercritical thermal power plants. These are welcome moves. So today, this much only. So we have discussed three articles: urban development, oil change, and climate impact, and its survey in the economic survey. So this is the discussion. Thank you very much for the discussion.